On the night of December 31st, 2025, while most of the world was watching fireworks and counting down to the new year, something very different was happening inside the Kremlin. There were no celebrations, no announcements, no press conference. Instead, Vladimir Putin signed a set of decrees that would quietly redraw the rules of global investment, not just in Russia, but everywhere. These decrees came into force on January 13th, 2026. With a single stroke of a pen, two foreign industrial giants ceased to exist as owners of their own factories inside Russia. Not because they sold them, not because they abandoned them, but because the Russian state took them. Denmark's industrial flagship Rockwool, one of the most advanced insulation manufacturers on Earth, and CanPack, a Polish-American packaging powerhouse producing aluminum cans critical to food and beverage supply chains. Both companies had invested billions. Both operated massive modern facilities. Both followed Russian law, paid taxes, and employed Russian workers. And overnight, they were gone. This was not a business dispute. This was not a regulatory issue. This was state seizure carried out with full political intent. Tonight, we are going to explain why a nuclear superpower felt compelled to steal insulation factories and soda can production lines, and why this moment exposes a level of desperation inside Russia that few truly understand. Because what you are witnessing is not nationalization. It is the transformation of Russia into a theft economy. And let's begin with the facts. Rockwool is not just another construction company. It is the world leader in rock-based insulation technology. Materials that regulate heat, prevent pipe failures, protect infrastructure, and reduce energy loss. Before the seizure, Rockwool operated 4 major factories inside Russia, producing insulation not just for homes, but for industrial facilities, pipelines, and municipal infrastructure. These factories were technologically complex. They relied on proprietary software, custom furnaces, specialized components sourced through global supply chains. They were, in every sense, Western industrial systems operating inside Russia. And then they were handed over to a Moscow-registered shell company called Construction Asset Development, a company created just months earlier, with no industrial track record, with a barely functioning website, with ownership structures that lead straight back to state-linked interests. On paper, this was called a temporary administration. In reality, it was confiscation. Now let's talk about CanPack. CanPack is a Polish-American joint venture, meaning its ownership ties directly into 2 NATO countries. Its Russian factories produce aluminum packaging, cans used for food, beverages, and long-term storage. That matters far more than it sounds, because modern wars are not won by tanks alone. They are won by logistics. If soldiers cannot be fed, they cannot fight. CanPack's production lines were among the most advanced in Russia's food packaging sector, and they were transferred, again overnight, to a company called Stahl Element, a structure that operates under direct state influence. The Kremlin insists all of this is legal. Their justification is simple. These companies belong to unfriendly countries. Therefore, we appoint temporary administrators. But under international law, this is a textbook violation of property rights. And the companies know it. Rockwool's CEO, Jess Monk Hansen, did not mince words. He publicly stated, "This is not a commercial decision. This is a seizure. And we will try to protect our assets, but we are not optimistic." That sentence alone tells you everything. Now comes the critical question. Why now? Why seize insulation factories and packaging plants at this precise moment? The answer lies not in geopolitics, but in winter. Russia is heading into one of the most dangerous heating seasons of the last decade. You may remember the images from early 2025, apartment blocks around Moscow without heat, burst pipes, collapsed heating systems in Novosibirsk and St. Petersburg, families burning furniture to stay warm. Those images were politically toxic. And as Russia approaches the 2026 presidential election, Putin cannot afford a repeat. Insulation is no longer a construction product. It is a political weapon. Due to sanctions, Russia cannot import high-quality insulation materials from the West at scale. Domestic alternatives are insufficient, and Rockwool's factories represent the single most reliable source of advanced insulation inside the country. By seizing them, Putin did not just steal factories, He stole Denmark's technology to stabilize Russia's housing stock. Every square meter of insulation produced now serves one purpose: prevent public outrage, prevent infrastructure collapse, prevent political humiliation. This is not economics, this is regime survival. But there's another layer, darker, colder, and deeply personal: revenge. Rockwool's leadership revealed a critical detail after the seizure. The company had donated approximately $67 million to the Rebuild Ukraine Foundation, supporting reconstruction in cities destroyed by Russian attacks. From the Kremlin's perspective, the logic is brutal and clear. If you help rebuild what I destroyed, I will destroy what you own. This was not punishment. It was a warning to every Western company still operating inside Russia. Putin's message is simple: you are either with me or your property is mine. And with that message, Russia crossed a line it can never uncross. Because this is no longer about managing exits. This is about direct expropriation. And Rockwool and CanPack are only the beginning. Next part, we will show how these seizures are connected directly to Russia's war logistics, why canned food matters more than missiles, and how foreign factories are being repurposed into military infrastructure, whether their owners like it or not. To understand what Russia is doing, you have to stop thinking of factories as businesses and start seeing them as strategic assets. Wars today are not fought only on the battlefield. They are fought in warehouses, in supply chains, in production schedules. And Russia's war machine has a problem. Since 2022, Russian military logistics have been under constant strain. Sanctions disrupted supply chains. Imports became slower, more expensive, and lower in quality. Equipment shortages multiplied. Food supply became unpredictable. A tank without fuel is scrap metal. A soldier without food is a liability. This is where CanPack becomes critical. Canned food is the backbone of military logistics. It is durable, transportable, and resistant to spoilage. Aluminum packaging is essential not just for food, but for medicine, energy drinks, and field rations. CanPack's factories were among the most technologically advanced food packaging facilities in Russia. By seizing them, the Kremlin achieved two objectives at once. First, a political strike against Poland and the United States. Second, and more importantly, direct control over a key military supply chain. The transfer to Stahl element means production can now be planned not by market demand, but by state order. In plain language, the Russian army's food supply is now being secured using stolen Western factories. This is not an accident, it is policy. Now you might ask, didn't these companies try to leave Russia earlier? Yes, they did. But leaving Russia is far harder than entering it. The Kremlin imposed so-called exit taxes, often confiscating up to 50% of asset value. Remaining assets were sold at massive discounts to Kremlin-friendly oligarchs. But in 2025 and 2026, something changed. Putin no longer wants cash. He wants functioning factories. Money can be printed, factories cannot. And this logic does not stop with foreigners. It is now consuming Russia's own elite. In 2024, one of Russia's largest pasta producers was seized and converted into state property by court order. Later that year, major ferroalloy plants were nationalized under the justification of strategic metals. In 2025, prosecutors moved against one of Russia's largest gold producers, gold being a cash equivalent resource critical to sanctioned survival. Then came airports. One of Moscow's major airports was transferred to state control on the grounds of foreign influence. Warehousing giants, oil field service companies, grain traders, automotive retailers, all targeted. According to Russia's own prosecutor general, assets worth over 2.4 trillion rubles had been transferred to state ownership by early 2025. This is no longer selective, it is systemic, and the pattern is clear. Any asset that supports energy, logistics, food, transportation, currency reserves is now fair game. Russia is not defending its economy, it is liquidating it for wartime survival. Next, we will expose the long-term cost of this strategy. Why seized factories don't stay productive, why technology without support collapses, and why even China is quietly backing away. At first glance, Putin's strategy looks effective. Factories are still running, workers still show up, products still roll off the line. State media proudly declares, the West is gone, but production continues. But this is an illusion, because modern factories are not self-contained, they are ecosystems. Rockwool's furnaces rely on specialized software updates. Replacement parts come from global suppliers. Maintenance protocols are proprietary. When those systems fail, and they will, Russia cannot simply replace them. China will not openly transfer sensitive industrial technology at scale. Secondary sanctions are a real threat, and domestic substitutes are often decades behind. So what happens? Production quality drops, downtime increases, efficiency collapses. The same is true for CanPack's precision lines. Aluminum processing requires calibration, metallurgy expertise, and software support. Without them, output degrades. Now add economic pressure. Interest rates inside Russia hover around 20%. Inflation exceeds 10%, even by official figures. This makes investment nearly impossible. And trust, the oxygen of any economy, is gone. Foreign investors are not asking, is Russia profitable? They are asking, what will be seized next? Even Chinese firms are hesitant. The question being asked in Beijing today is the same one asked in Copenhagen and Warsaw. If they did this to them, what will they do to us? And that question has no reassuring answer. Next, we will look at the global response: frozen Russian assets, tit-for-tat seizures, sanctions escalation, and why the bill Russia is accumulating will one day dwarf everything it has stolen. The world has not remained silent. Denmark and Poland have formally condemned the seizures. The European Union has declared them illegal. International arbitration cases are already underway. But Putin believes he has leverage. Roughly $300 billion in Russian central bank assets remain frozen in the West. His message is blunt. You froze my money, I take your companies. This marks the start of a dangerous tit-for-tat era in global finance, but the balance is not equal, because while Russia can seize factories, it cannot seize trust. And without trust, no economy survives. As 2026 approaches, the EU and US are shifting from shock sanctions to permanent strangulation. Energy revenues are being targeted not just at the source, but across shipping, insurance, ports, and intermediaries. Technology flows are being tightened. Smuggling routes are being made slower, riskier, and more expensive. This is not about collapse tomorrow. It is about decline forever. Putin may keep homes warm this winter. He may keep soldiers fed next month. But he is mortgaging the next 50 years of Russia's future. When this war eventually ends, Russia will return to the world carrying an invoice, not for billions, but for hundreds of billions in seized assets, legal claims, and lost credibility. Factories can be stolen, time cannot. And the cost of this strategy will be paid not by oligarchs, but by the Russian people. So the question remains, is this a masterstroke of survival, or the final act of panic before irreversible decline? Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and stay with Media Talks, where we follow the facts, not the propaganda.